Okay, same night over in the United States, Dignity Heath Sports Park. It is Sebastien Fundora against Carlos Ocampo, who I believe has one defeat
Errol
from
Spence
Errol
Jr.
Spence Jr.
Yes.
a few
And
years
we didn't get to
back.
see much of him in that fight, actually.
Give us your thoughts on this one then, Josh. I like Sebastian Fundora. I think he's going to win this. That's all I'll say. Quickly.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Fundora. He's always an
Yeah.
interesting fight to see, or a fighter to see when he's in there because it just looks so awkward seeing such a long fighter fighting at that weight, and it's just like almost an anomaly in a sense. But I do like Fundora, and contrary to his length and size, he really doesn't use it in the manner that one would think. He really thrives off of actually landing a ton of punches. He does a lot of good inside work, um, and he's a super long fighter. So I think that his output alone, makes it tough for opponents because he does have a pretty high output. I actually did a video of Fundora on my channel several months back, and oftentimes, man, he's throwing a lot of punches, and if you're an opponent of his, then you're going to need to keep up with that output if you're really going to find success with him. Now, in studying his career thus far uh, through that video, there was one fighter who was able to give him a good bit of problems. I think it was Jermonte Clark, if I'm not mistaken. And in that fight, it was a little bit closer, and you could make an argument that Clark won it. And Clark, though, he used a lot of movement, and he was able to time Fundora a good deal and avoid taking a lot of punishment to the degree that some of these other opponents had. So taking that into account, Carlos Ocampo, I I just believe I only saw his fight with Errol Spence, and that wasn't even much of a fight because Spence essentially just kind of dominated him there early. But and he's moved up now, so I'm gonna lean towards Sebastian Fundora because I think that he definitely has a style in just giving his style, his output, and given his size and the way he actually does his work. I think that's going to be a lot and tough for anyone to handle at 154, even the likes of Jamel Charlo, etc., because his output is such a crazy one. And sometimes his percentages aren't high as far as landed, but he definitely outthrows his opponents. And I think from what I gathered, pretty much those recorded on CompuBox, he was only outlanded once, and it just so happened to be or not outlanded, but outthrown through more punches, or the opponent threw more punches, and that happened to be Sergio Garcia, who's a Spaniard who's pretty solid. He's decent, but that aside, I just think that yeah, it's going to be tough sledding for anyone when dealing with Ocampo's output, size, stylistically, and I think he has a little bit more pop than what may meet the eye as well. So I'm going Fundora. I think he probably stops him somewhere in the middle to late rounds.
Yep. Go ahead, Alex. Give us your opinions, predictions.
Yeah, Sebastian Fundora. I don't think we've ever seen anything like him. 6'6", 80-inch reach. Doesn't use that length at all in regards to distance, but seems to have mastered how to fight, how to get the leverage in that middle to close range. And he's very difficult. You see fighters, they think they're in the inside, they think they're safe, and I think what most people don't, uh, they just can't train for really because of that size is trying to pull out, trying to reset. He's not a fighter you can reset. It's obvious. You have to be in his chest, or you have to have great anticipation because he's going to throw and you're not going to see it coming and it's going to land. And he obviously hits hard enough. He's not a one shot guy, but he obviously. I mean, look at him. What is he? Not what is his record? 19-0, something like that.
Yeah, 19 and
Yeah,
oh
13
3,
knockouts.
3 stopping.
Just beat Lubin, smash his face in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, you know, like you said, the Jamonte Clark fight, that was a very close fight. I've never really rewatched it, but I've heard just from other people. It was very competitive.
That was a
Jamonte Clark's also very big for the weight as well. I am not a Sebastian Fundora fan. I just don't see a lot of skills. Uh, but what I see is that he maximizes what he has. I mean, he's such an anomaly. I mean, making 154. He said he can make welterweight, and I believe him. He says, the biggest he'll get is 157. Ocampo, I've actually seen him after the Spence fight. He fought in Canada against a guy named Zuski or something like that,
Yeah,
who was competitive with a Mean Machine. And
that was
Ocampo looked good.
a big upset, wasn't it? Because that was on home style for the other guy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do I think he's gonna beat Fundora? No, I think it's a perfect style for Fundora. It's a great showcase fight. He has his little sister here. Everything's meant for him. But I don't think Fundora is gonna be like this Hall of Fame guy, this guy that can't be beat. Very difficult. You're gonna have to be probably elite to beat him. But I don't see him as elite at this weight class. I think Jamal Charlo folds him. That's all I have to say on the matter.
Okay, that's fair enough. I like Sebastien Fundora. Seems like a nice guy, and he seems to have exciting fights as well.
Yeah,
Even though the style might not be effective for his size or whatever. He also showed in that last fight against Lubin that he could come back from a bit of adversity because he went down in the end. Yeah, round 7. And then obviously he pummeled Lubin's face in.
Great fight.
And it was a good fight.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go with Fundora as well. And I think, like you say, it might not be the best or a Hall of Famer, but I think he'll give a lot of people a lot of problems. But he will come up against someone that's going to be better than him, that'll beat him eventually. And he's only 24 years old as well, so so that's an interesting one. There's quite a few fights on this undercard. Is it Angas is still knocking around? That's a name I'm not seeing for a while.
It's a rematch. He actually lost
Okay.
to Martinez. Martinez landed like 400 punches on him. Martinez is a Marcos Maidana managed fighter. And man, I mean, he
from
literally was
Argentina.
beating Cajas to the punch throughout the fight. So yeah, definitely want to see. I mean, who doesn't want to see someone? Both these guys are going to combine for almost 2,000 punches. Hopefully, hopefully the approach doesn't change. So yeah, definitely really good to see that fight on the undercard. Makes it more intriguing, along with the other matchups.
Yeah, Carlos Adames out against Juan Marquez
Bronco.
Montiel.
Yeah, who fought Jamal Charlo in a interesting fight. It was kind of similar to the Usman versus Antwi. One guy was just seemed to be better, but it was competitive though wide.
Okay, looks like this guy's a bit of a knockout artist as well. All of his wins have come by stoppage. Interesting.
He got knocked out by Munguia. He went down in weight to welterweight one time and got folded.
All right, Josh, is there anything you want to mention on this undercard before we move on?
Yeah. Of course, I'm in the DC area. So Michael Fox, he's going to be taking on
Mean Machine.
Kavaliauskas. Mean Machine. So Mike Fox, I think he's another one of those guys who he doesn't have much pop. He's super tall for the division in a sense, and he actually moves pretty well and has a pretty solid defense for a long fighter. He actually he's able to duck in and dodge shots even with his length. So I've seen him fight pretty much a lot of his fights, even some of the local ones here, and I think he does have a pretty solid talent. So it should be very interesting. Of course, Mean Machine has fought the better competition, and of course, he's lost to the top level guys. But that being said, Fox doesn't have necessarily power, so it'll be interesting to see if he's able to outpoint Mean Machine. But I think he has the potential of doing so because he's very well on the outside. And he uses his jab properly. He uses his size very well. So I think that's the potential for sort of an upset, I guess you could say, if you look at, who Mean Machine has been in with. But a couple of those Fox losses were very controversial, in my opinion. They were super close. And especially one of the latter ones where he was essentially screwed out of a title. But we'll see.
Rob Naked, one of the worst decisions you'll ever see in boxing.
Yeah, indeed. And the WBA, they seem to really be on some shady business. in that fight, and in the aftermath, they had to release a bunch of statements and all of that stuff, trying to clear the air. But it was certainly a robbery.
Yeah, Fox definitely has some skills.